All right, what's up, guys? So ultimately today, I've never done a video before in my life, minus a couple of the weird things, in my youth. But ultimately, I felt a very strong need in my heart to do something regarding this book. I just wanted to basically make a video, maybe doing like a discussion about it, which is why I'm making this one, to say the least. But ultimately, I want to talk about this book. It's called Beautiful Disaster by Jamie Maguire. And ultimately, this book it really really rang out to me because not only does it touch a lot about the where I'm from, it has a lot of components to Nevada, to the Midwest, things like that. But it also talks a lot about love and kind of like the difficulties and the hardship, struggling, like trying to love somebody. And then on top of that, at the very end of the book, there's fighting throughout the book as well, which who doesn't like that? So ultimately, this book has like three main aspects that it really really makes readers want to stop from one chapter to go to another and really not drop the book whatsoever. So I kind of give you a little bit of background why I picked up the book. Ultimately, 2 years ago, I was taking a train home from Iowa to Nevada. I basically went to Barnes and Nobles, wasn't hoping for anything special. I went there and basically just picked a random book off the shelf. It so happened to be this book, which Jamie Maguire, she's the author. She's a New York Times #1 bestseller, so she's got skills to pay the bills. But ultimately, I picked this book off the shelf, and basically, I took this train, which was a 2-day train ride, and I read the book almost the whole way through. And from start to finish, like this book literally gave me like a movie theater worthy like thrill ride. I started from the first page, and it went all the way up to here, and then dropped back down to here. So I'll kind of give you guys a brief overview because ultimately what I'm trying to do is do a book review. I've never done this before, but I'm going to do a book review of the whole book. But I guess we'll start like this. Ultimately, the book itself, I would give it 10 out of 10. I think that it was composed very well. I think theatrically, if basically this was composed into a movie, it would not let you down whatsoever. But as far as the book goes, I kind of actually grade it as a novel itself. Um, the first part of the book, it's kind of heart wrenching because you're basically looking through the eyes of Travis Maddox, which is the bad boy, the hard ass, the kid at school that everybody's kind of like fearful of. Basically looking at Abby, which is the girl that she just moved from out of town. She's running away from a lot of her problems, which is basically the Nevada aspect of it, the gambling and the nasty stuff from Nevada. No shots at Nevada because I'm from Nevada. But ultimately, so that's the whole first part of the book is Travis trying to understand Abby, and then Abby trying to kind of push him away because she doesn't want anything to do with anything that's gonna, basically make her life worse than it was beforehand. So ultimately, that's the first part of the book. The second part of the book, which I'm going to summarize it in first part, second part, and third part, because that's the way that climaxes go. But so the second part of the book is kind of like the realization that Abby, she's starting to fall in love with Travis, and Travis absolutely he loves Abby no matter what. So they're starting to fall in love with each other and starting to coincide. They're starting to gel together really well. It's very rocky in the first few chapters where Travis is battling back and forth, trying to help Abby. Abby actually ends up dating some kid that they go to school with that Travis does not like. Period. I think his name's Parker. Yeah, so she starts dating some kid, and then Travis literally is like watching them like from school and from his apartment because Abby has to, be around him that much. Basically, that he's watching them at all times. So long story short, that they're falling in love with each other, and even though that Abby's been hanging out with some other guy, Travis is still hanging around. And so long story, and to bring a little bit of insight on what I just said. So the whole thing about the novel, like the kind of kicker to it is that Travis is an underground fighter. I think I might have mentioned that before, but long story short, Travis is an underground fighter. So what he does is he basically goes from, like dorm to dorm. He does underground fights. People like pay him money, like buku bucks, to basically do these fights. So long story short, his big prize, like his biggest win, is that he bets Abby, which is the girl he's in love with, the girl that's from Nevada. He bets Abby that if he does not get hit one time in a single fight, that she has to come live with him for 30 days. So that's the kicker to that. And then on. So with all that being said, fast forward, and so Abby, in between having to live with him for 30 days, is trying so hard not to give in to the fact that she's in love with Travis. So, with that being said, she actually goes on a date with Parker, which is a kid that goes to school with them. He's not really a monumental figure in the book, but ultimately it's monumental in the sense that Travis does not fucking want that dude around her whatsoever. Like, he's just, he literally is like, yo, dude, I don't want you around my girl. So, anyways, it fast forward throughout the middle of the book. Basically, it's Travis trying to basically prove his worth to Abby. I mean, it's a shitty thing to say, and I don't like saying that myself. But ultimately, he has to prove that he's good enough for her. And the whole time throughout the very middle of the novel, she's trying to reassure herself and trying to readjust the fact that maybe Travis might be good for him and maybe he's not. And she's assuming that, this Parker kid who comes from a very good family. I think Parker, I believe that it said that his mom and dad are somewhere in the medical field. So they're very well off, to say the least. But ultimately, Abby's trying to, like, do this artificial lifestyle that's not working for her. And so ultimately, throughout the middle of the novel, from the middle point, actually, like from start, it's Travis like fighting for her, blah, blah, blah. The middle, it's like a lot of conflict, a lot of Travis really, really bearing down and trying to fight for her. And the last part of the middle is basically Travis finally winning her over. And I remember that the part in the book specifically where it said that Travis literally had went on like a 6-day, 7-day binge of drinking, and Abby said that he looked like shit. He looked like a skeleton, and he approached her at her dorm because this takes place in a university, and he approached her off of his motorcycle at her dorm, and she said, "Hey, Trav, you look like shit. What's going on?" And he approaches her and basically gives her a hug, and he tells her straight up, he's like, "Yo, call Parker." He's like, "Tell him you don't love him." And she literally looked at her phone and looked at him and like kind of like cried a little bit, but she got on the phone and said straight up, she was like, "I'm not in love with you anymore. I love Travis." And she says that in the book, and then you could see kind of like the life restored in Travis. So and basically, and that's the middle part of the book. The last part of the book, it's not that intriguing. It's kind of a bad filler, but this is my favorite book, so I got to talk it up. The last part of the book is basically Abby's dad kind of holding her hostage, telling her that she's the reason that he has bad luck. So she has to go back to Vegas, and she has to basically make him like $3,200 or something like that. So the last part of the book was, it's not shitty in the sense that the writer made it shitty. It's shitty in the sense of context and what you read, if that makes sense. So it was a great book either way. Ultimately, if you like fighting, if you like violence, and you like love, Beautiful Disaster. I literally, I'm not even getting paid. I'm not getting sponsored to even talk about this book. I'm literally talking about it solely because I love it that much. Like I said, I had this tattooed on my wrist. It says Pigeon, solely because of this book. It had mean that much to me that I would get a tattoo of it. So I highly suggest, if anybody's looking for a good read, check out Beautiful Disaster by Jamie McGuire, or check out any of the other series. There's actually like 5 or 6 books that she's wrote that's all part of the same universe. So you have, I'm looking for the other book. Anyways, you have Beautiful Disaster, you have Walking Disaster, you have Catching, there's like 6 books that all take place in the same universe, and each book is talking about, or through the eyes of the brother of Travis, because he has 6 brothers, and all the stories are basically the same. Not basically the same, but all stories are very similar in the sense that you got a badass that really loves somebody, and he's not a fucking dickhead. I mean, he basically takes care of his business. So if you like this book, I guarantee you will like all those other books. So thank you very much, guys, for listening. For anybody else that is, like I said, this is the first video that I'll probably do. Other than that, I might stream League or something other else. But I really don't know what else to do. But I felt uh, very passionate about this book, so I felt like I had to do something for it. So, thank you very much. Appreciate it.